but that's not strictly true. One writer for the AMA journal rejected the report. In 1968, Dr. Zinberg and Weil in Boston completed the most intensive scientific investigation of marijuana made to date. They too found no clear-cut harmful effects. Dr. Zinberg was subsequently interviewed, and he mentioned that he has seen temporary psychosis-like conditions in some users, although not in the control group that he studied. He emphasized, though, that these conditions were always temporary and only appeared in persons who had no previous experience with the drug. Usually, he said, in parents who'd got it from their own children. Tranquilizers calm them down quickly in a matter of hours, is what he added. The Presidential Commission on Marijuana, March 22nd, 1972, as is well known, came to the same basic conclusions and recommended that jail sentences for the use of weed be discontinued. President Nixon, at the time, Tricky Dicky, however, disagreed with the commission, saying in effect, right, now let this one sink in, that their evidence did not support the conclusions he had formed before their evidence was collected, as was the case in his rejection of the previous Pornography Commission. The President seemed to think that scientific evidence should guide legislators only when it supported his own intuitive judgments. And many other people seem to have that attitude towards science, but few are so refreshingly frank in stating it as Mr. Nixon was. The interim reports of the Canadian Government Commission of Inquiry comes to the same general conclusions and recommends the abolition of criminal penalties for blowing the weed. And for the time being, that's all I've got to say on the matter. However, I know most of you guys are aware of the hemp plant, its history and its uses, its multitude of uses, and I'll quite happily continue along those lines at some point in the future. Okie dokie, right, the second part of our Bill Hicks soundbite. I'll be back with you. Actually, what I'll do is I'll play the soundbite out for you, and then we'll switch straight on to a song which is actually the theme from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
A young man on acid realized that all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration, that we are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There's no such thing as death. Life is only a dream, and we're the imagination of ourselves. Here's Tom with the weather. You've been fantastic, and I hope you enjoyed it. There is a point. Is there a point to all this? Let's find a point. Is there a point to my act? I would say there is. I have to. The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it, you think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are. And the ride goes up and down and round and round. It has thrills and chills, and it's very brightly colored, and it's very loud, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride. And we kill those people. Shut him up. We have a lot invested in this ride. Shut him up. Look at my furrows of worry. Look at my big bank account and my family. This has to be real. It's just a ride. But we always kill those good guys who try and tell us that. You ever notice that? And let the demons run amok? But it doesn't matter, because it's just a ride. And we can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice. No effort, no work, no job, no savings of money. A choice right now between fear and love. The eyes of fear want you to put bigger locks on your door, buy guns, close yourself off. The eyes of love instead see all of us as one. Here's what we can do to change the world right now to a better ride. Take all that money we spend on weapons and defense each year and instead spend it feeding, clothing, and educating the poor of the world, which it would many times over, not one human being excluded, and we can explore space together, both inner and outer, forever in peace. Thank you very much. You've been great. I hope you enjoyed it. London, you're fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome back. Bill Hicks. Some very wise words there. Sorry about the earlier mess up with the track. Still learning to drive this SAM software properly, especially on manual DJ. Anyway, let me just throw Socrates' quote back at you again. The only true wisdom is in knowing that you know nothing. Where does that leave us? Anyway, while you're pondering that, I said earlier I'd picked up an interesting story regarding Ireland recently, and I'm sure some of you again will already be well aware of it, but I'll share it with those of you that aren't. And I appreciate the main theme of I guess our shows should be dealing specifically with areas that are directly affecting us, and I promise you the future offerings that I'll be bringing will be geared up to that very subject. Although a couple of good points worth sharing with you in the form of some news, or alleged news, courtesy of Yoda, our Yoda, who I think he posted the link in the chat room earlier, but for you guys that didn't see it, apparently it references some landmark court decision regarding mortgages, whereby allegedly some judge has basically said, yep, if you can't produce a contract, reference this mortgage signed by both parties and with all the other relevant areas of the contract being in place, then quite simply there is no contract. Now, I'm saying allegedly because I personally don't know whether this is genuine or not. I've no reason to doubt the message, but I haven't checked it out myself. By all means, feel free to do so. But really good positive news nonetheless, and that being on top of the other recent announcement regarding court matters of the chap with the council tax issue, who's apparently had a judge confirm that indeed he is not the name. So are things starting to happen a bit quicker now? Are things speeding up? I reckon. Anyway, this particular point of interest might not be directly relating to our day-to-day circumstances, but it's worth mentioning nonetheless. Now, most of you will be familiar with the incident in 1980 in England at a location known as Rendlesham Forest, which is a Ministry of Defence base. It was being run by the Americans at the time, and one of the most famous UFO encounters certainly in the case of Britain, but one of the most noticeable ones in the world, because it has the accounts of the American military police or Air Force police that investigated this particular incident. Now, I can remember back at the time that the first documentary that was launched in means of explaining the various papers that picked up on the incident basically sent a reporter onto the TV telling us that it was actually lights from a lighthouse that were being seen through the trees by these trained military personnel who were easily tricked into believing that a lighthouse was in fact a flying object, which allegedly one of them actually went up and put his hand on. But that's how it was portrayed to us through the media at the time, and is probably how it stays in most people's memories. But if you have a passing interest in such things, you'll take note over the years as they go by. Any other introductions to the incidents that you find of interest, and the chaps I should say, two of them have gone on record, Penniston and Burroughs are their names. What wasn't released until I think it was just October last year. In fact, it might not have even been until December last year, but recent anyway. Back in 1980, what he didn't disclose was when he put his hand on this craft, which from memory I think was supposed to be like a black pyramid hovering off the ground with sort of lights that seemed to be inside it but reflecting on its surface or something. But Penniston actually put his hand on it, and what he recounted was that when he did so, an image flashed into his mind, and during the actual scenario itself, he didn't think much of it because, there's this pointy, floaty object that apparently moves back through the woods and then shoots up into the air to be contending with, along with the possibility of others, and as well as letting his commanding officer know what was going on. But the image was a series of numbers, ones and zeros, what appears to be binary code. And although he had no indication of what the ones and zeros meant, if they meant anything at all, what he did see continually was the image of these numbers. And in his notebook, he went through and laboriously wrote down the numbers in the order that they were appearing in this mental image, and had decided not to mention anything about it, as he was questioning his own sanity at the time. But since he's retired from the Air Force, and we're talking some 31 years ago now, since the incident, I'm not sure exactly when he retired, but he's come forward with his notebook and said, look, these are the very digits that I've seen in this recurring image ever since the time I touched the craft. And he asked these investigators to finally give them to some computer programmer and see if they were indeed anything relevant, which was promptly done. This was actually shown on the History Channel in America, which is why I'm sure some of you are already up to speed on it, but I found it really interesting because I only became aware of it myself last night, that the binary code did indeed produce a message, much to the surprise of the computer programmer, who reckons that the 5 pages worth of binary codes that Penniston had written down would be impossible, well, perhaps unless you were a savant, I think he says, to be able to memorize the